Ready to go? All right, I'm going to call the Municipal Building Commission meeting for September 8th to order at 5:30. And because we're back to this terrible remote thing, I guess we'll have to have Jeremy call the roll and determine who's here. So take it away, Jeremy.
All right, Carrie.
Present.
Ed is not here. Jackie.
Here.
Gail should be joining us shortly. Jerry.
Yeah.
Mike. Andrew. Kelly.
Here.
And Jack. That's 5.
Here.
That's a quorum.
Okay. So the first order of business is the library project. No, I forgot. We have to approve the August 4th minutes first.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Jeremy, call the roll, please.
All right. Terry.
Yes.
Ed.
No.
Jackie.
Yes.
Gail. Not yet. Jerry.
Yes.
Mike or Andrew. Kelly.
Yes.
And Jack.
Yes, passes unanimously. All right, now let's move on to the library project. Evan, you want the floor?
Sure. Thanks, Jack. Good evening, everyone.
And let's just go to the record that Deb, our architect, is here as well. Hi, Deb.
Correct.
Hi.
So with the requisition that's before you for approval through the end of August, the project is 82% complete. Largely what remains is additional work relative to the window replacement as well as accessibility work. We did complete and have an operational elevator. At this point, we do still have some base contract work that includes installing the balconies that are restored, as well as some of the restoration windows have been going in recently, starting with the 4th floor and then moving down to the 2nd floor. So generally, the contractor's making good and reasonable progress. And they tell us that they should be complete by the end of September, weather permitting. And if I can share my screen, I can show you some photos relative to progress.
Please do.
Okay.
I love the plywood windows.
Yes. So this is earlier in August, just after our last meeting. But I will try to quickly run through. But here you can see, obviously, a lot of the copper has patinaed quite nicely against the slate roof. Painting of the metal cornice, and also starting some cleaning and application of some masonry coatings.
Evan, if you could go back to that picture for one moment.
Sure.
I think this gives us a good view for those who weren't at the last meeting at the library of the walkway that has to be replaced to meet handicap accessibility. Yes.
Right, that's all of this, and then out to the street as well.
Yeah, and that is that work is scheduled to begin shortly, correct? Next week?
It should be next week or the following week. We need a mock-up first, and then be able to move forward with that.
And I don't know, Amy is Amy on with us? Doesn't look like Amy is, or Charlie.
No, they have the big read launch today.
Oh, that's right. So that's why they aren't with us. But the library will be shut down for a period of time, correct, Evan?
Yeah, we're thinking about a week once they actually start. And that's planned to be done basically mid-September.
And the reason for the shutdown is that you won't be able to get to the front door
Front door, correct.
because they'll be replacing the area in front of the door and the walkway all the way out to the street. So
Correct.
go ahead with your slideshow.
Sure. Some interior work at the first floor, some of those VRF units in the hard ceiling in the lobby. Again, some close-up work. Here's some work in the that was done in the third floor staff lounge. New flooring in there. Some close-ups, you can see here the fourth floor windows that were restored, that have been installed. Looking from the other side. This is the fourth floor staff area that's basically all set up, and I think some tech folks are working in and up there now, especially with the elevator functioning. These are what those restored windows look from the inside. This is the large conference room, corner conference room on the fourth floor. Some additional work. This is down at the children's area on the first floor. And then if I could, I think I had mentioned at the last meeting that try to see what it looked like in terms of how well this thing was cleaned up. So here's a front view. On the left is before the project started. And then on the right is a current shot after a majority of the cleaning has been done. Granted, they're slightly different photos and whatnot, but I think you can see or tell that the cleaned masonry has more of the yellow hue to the stonework is kind of coming through, whereas prior to cleaning, it was much more kind of a colder gray tone to it. And then again, another view looking back at that front section where you can again see some of the same relative to both the brick and the other stonework there. Any questions regarding construction progress?
Yeah, that's fairly dramatic.
It is. It is. So with that, I will move on to the budget. You all should have received this in your handout. Basically, one item changed in our current budget. We have a additional service request from the architect for amendment number 8 in the amount of $1,130. This was for a variance with MAAB. Basically, the building inspector had requested that we formally submit for a variance to for the period during which the elevator was down, but the library was still open to the public. So while the elevator was getting worked on, there was not that full access to the facility. So he requested a variance, and this additional service is for the work associated with putting together and submitting and getting us that variance that the building inspector requested. So the BH&A contract increases by that amount, and then we've gone ahead and taken that out of soft cost contingency down here at the bottom, leaving us with just over $45.5 thousand. Again, the adjustments down below. Soft cost change log. highlighted areas are what's changed. So again, architectural services here, highlighted that $1,130, and the soft cost adjustment and adjustment to the soft cost contingency. So with that, we have we're looking for an approval on amendment number 8 to the BH&A contract in the amount of $1,130. We also have at the back of the packet, we have a proposal from Tom Hewing. He's a roofing consultant, to perform an IR scan and do some moisture tests at our new flat roofs, as well as the existing, slightly older flat roof on the main section. And that's in the amount of $1,500. That would be contracted directly with the city and a PO cut for that. We went out to probably 4 or 5 different testing agencies for both IR scans for the roof, for air and water infiltration at our replacement windows, and for general construction testing. And from those 3 groupings of specific and general testing, we identified and are recommending moving forward with Tom Hewing for the IR scan at $1,500, UTS for general construction testing. And so that's basically rates that they have given us for things like soil compaction and concrete cylinders and whatnot. I can't imagine that that our invoicing for the general construction testing will exceed $1,500 for that portion of the work. And the window testing for the replacement windows is about $3,000 a day. And typically they can get 2 or 3 windows done in a day. And assuming there are no failures, we would probably just do 1 day of window testing, but that could run into 2 days. So that would be somewhere in the $3,000 to $6,000 range for window testing. So all in all, the testing that we're looking to have done on the project is should be less than $10,000 total. And we do have a line item in the budget for testing, testing and commissioning services. So we still have a healthy line item for in that portion of the budget. So I think at this point I would ask for 2 votes or approvals. 1 to approve the BH&A additional service for $1,130, and to move forward with the Tom Hewing proposal IR scan in the amount of $1,500.
Evan, does that $1,130, does that include the application fees for that paperwork?
Deborah, I believe that all of that is inclusive.
Sure, let's call it inclusive, even if it's not. I think sometimes they assume it's a reimbursable expense, but that's fine. We'll absorb that if it's the application itself is not in there.
And so that variance was needed so that we didn't have to shut the library down while the elevator was out of service. Would that be a fair statement?
I think in essence, Jack, that certainly could be true. I think on most projects, when they're doing elevator modernization, it's assumed that the elevator will need to be down for an extended period of time for the modernization and repairs. This is the first job that I've had in 30 years that anyone has requested a specific variance to that, but you know, speaking to the building inspector, he certainly knows his stuff and is covering his butt, so I don't have a problem with that. So yeah, long answer is yes, you're correct.
Okay. I have a great deal of respect for Bill McDonough, and
Right.
I think that if he required it, then I certainly don't have a problem with it. And keeping the library open during this long construction period has been certainly one of our goals. So I think, does anybody have any other questions on the amendment to the BH&A contract or to the IR scan contract? Okay, hearing none, can we take both of those as one so that Jeremy doesn't have to call the roll too many times?
Move to approve. Second.
Is there any discussion? Jeremy?
All right, so on change order 5 for BH&A and on the 3 different testing proposals that Evan talked about, Terry,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Gail, see you joined,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and Jack.
Yes.
All right.
It's unanimous. Okay, so Evan, going back to the budget, you know, where do we stand overall at this point?
So let me share my screen again. Yeah, so at this point we have so the construction contingency actually went up. It was in essence a transfer. We had a placeholder for 200,000 for the accessibility work. That was included in change order number 5. So that got transferred within the budget itself. So we have just over $1.2 million in construction contingency, as well as a little over $45.5 thousand in soft cost contingency. And then we have some other line items that down below here in terms of testing services and other things that we do not believe that will be needed. I would project that when the project is done, we will certainly be handing back or freeing up about $1 million, if not more, to the city from our $6.5 million budget.
And that was because of the favorable bidding climate at the time we bid this, and also because we kind of avoided all the COVID problems, correct?
That is correct. If we were to bid this project today, you don't want to know what those numbers would be.
Yeah, we just bid the fire station roofs. That's the next thing on our agenda. So we understand. And to some degree, we did a few things on the fly in the sense that we didn't do the handicap design work until after we started the project. But it turns out, I think overall that we ended up in a very favorable position because of the decisions we made. So
I would agree with that.
Good.
So Jack, I have one other thing to share, which is the change log.
Yeah.
So there is one piece, and I'm sorry, but trying to get this out to you folks ahead of time. Basically, what has changed on this change log is increased pricing for the plaster and drywall repair work and painting at the second floor marble areas. And also added a placeholder for an elevator fourth floor lockout on that. However, since putting this together, we actually have a true and real number. Sorry, I'm not having a hard time taking a, here we go, closing. So we're actually looking for this. This is work that the commission had previously approved, $20,000. We got some revised pricing from the painting sub, so that has reduced, but we also went out to another painter and had them price this, and from that pricing, this is the bargain. So I am looking for consideration to ask the commission to approve the plaster and painting work on the second floor in the amount of $28,863.30. And that is change request number 28.
And so would this be replacing our $20,000 not to exceed number previously?
Correct.
So we would rescind the 20,000 and replace it with this $28,800 odd dollars, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and I know from the Tuesday morning meetings that Jeremy and I have participated in that the general contractor and you went above and beyond trying to find somebody to do this within the $20,000 number, and it just wasn't happening. Is that correct?
That is, and there was a painter that was recommended that was supposed to be cheap, even though he does historic work at the State House. But we got a number in excess of $73,000.
Yeah,
And
he wanted the job.
Yeah. So yeah, the pricing is crazy these days, and what we're really looking for is kind of verification that this reduced number, because this was a higher number from our painting sub, they sharpened their pencils a bit, that this is not an unreasonable number that they're giving us.
And this is the premier room in the entire city. So you know, I'm firmly in favor of restoring it, along with all the other work we've done. And especially since we right now look like we're about $1.2 or $3 million to the good. So anybody have any questions on this? Then I guess a motion is in order to rescind the previous not to exceed number and to replace it with this $28,000 number.
Both of them are so moved. Second.
Any discussion? Jeremy?
Terry,
Most definitely.
Jackie,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and Jack.
Yes. Okay, Evan, do you have anything further for us?
No, that would be it, unless someone has any questions that I can try to answer.
Okay, Deb, do you have anything you want to add to our discussion tonight?
I just want to show something, and my apologies to Evan. I know we've discussed this somewhat on site. I was there with the contractor and the mason this morning, and we looked at this item in a little bit more detail. And just to let you all know that this is another item that we're pursuing what it would take to maybe do a little extra work. I don't know, Evan, if you can share the screen with me. Or could I
Evan, you're muted.
do a screen share just to show these photos of the
Yeah, Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so at the bottom of your screen, Deborah, if you
Okay.
put your pointer down there should be.
Okay,
a
yep, all
green
right, I get it.
Screen button.
So
Yep.
now, all right, let me show you one thing that I think is worth doing, as you do this masonry restoration stuff and all this patching. So it's not just cleaning, it's a lot of patching with various masonry products and coatings to try and even out what still is not a very even coloration in some places. And so wait a second. So a photo from today showing how it's looking with the windows in place. But the area that I want to sort of look at in detail is this, the cornice above the main entrance, where there has been some repair work done, and some of that is still not finished in terms of what's owned in the base scope. We own some coating of this area to get this coloration all looking more uniform, but you can see the letters, the Attleboro Public Library.
We don't see your
Can you-
screen, Deb.
You don't see my screen? Let me try hitting share screen again.
So Deborah,
Is that not working?
after you share the screen, there should be a box that comes up that gives you some choices, and you need to select which thing that you're asking everyone to look at. So if
Yeah,
it's
and I picked of all my screens. I picked the screen. Maybe it's not. Let me try again to do share screen. Oh wait, here now there's something down here. So I'm sharing screen one.
Ah, yes.
Oh, you're seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, so it's this area above in the pediment above the main entrance where the lettering from the E in Attleboro on, the original is in pretty good shape. It's over at the left where looks like there's been some water damage. And this is where I'm saying we own the coating to make all the coloration here more uniform. And we own recarving these 4 letters that seem to have some wear, and they're kind of oversized now. They need to be thinned out and the edges made crisper. But the area that I think is, some extra work that the mason is going to look at how they could do it and put a price to it is, you see above the lettering band, there's this egg and dart row. And over at the left, it's in good condition. In certain places, it's completely eroded, where there must have been water coming through the stone from above. So I had done a sort of a drawing of the areas that are eroded that they're going to price, whether it's in place or making a casting to recreate the egg and dart that's missing. So where this is over the main entrance, and now that everything else is going to look so good, it just seems like something that would be good to do. And if there's the funding still available to do it, there are people who have the skills to do it. So we talked about it today. The masonry subcontractor is going to look at it in a little more detail, and it's an isolated, a discrete enough item that they could come back after the building is open again and go up on a lift and do this work for a week or 2 weeks to
I
fix
think it's
this.
certainly worth getting some pricing on, and then we can make a decision based on that.
So if I may, Deborah, this was not in the base scope that was bought. I was under the impression that the repointing and the kind of surfacing and imaging of the masonry was within the base scope. Why is this
Right.
particular
There
band not?
was a lot that was in the main scope in terms of pointing and patching. And what happens is when you do the cleaning process, which is the first thing you do, and it's a power cleaning, some of the stone that looks maybe okay, but it's kind of fragile and powdery. During that process, more of it comes off. So we expected that this would happen, but that would be that after we do the masonry patching that was on the drawings, there would be some additional that we would find that would need to be done. And we had an allowance, and I think the masonry contractor has done a very good job of doing everything we've asked them to do, and maybe more in the base scope. But this particular item, this egg and dart, which looks to me like it was in that kind of crumbly kind of condition that got some more of the material was lost during the cleaning process, or some of it we could have maybe missed seeing originally, or didn't really see the importance of it originally. But that is a more specialized kind of scope that we hadn't shown, and wouldn't have been in that same allowance. And it will take, as I said, either a carving or casting to bring those back to close to the original shape.
So are you saying that 114 years worth of dirt was holding that stuff in place?
Well, that's what happens a lot of times when you have that really dark, crusty dirt. That's holding together what a lot of times behind it is powder. So the black carbon in particular does do that.
I'm going to guess that Jeremy has the same thought that I have, which is that we are bumping up against a rule of thumb for changes that is not a law, but it is a rule of thumb that the AG's office has for 20%. So we might need to separately bid this and proceed that way. But I think that's something we need to talk to the auditor about, and the city solicitor, and determine if we are going to go ahead. But if you got an order of magnitude price from the mason, that would probably be very helpful to us in talking to them to figure out if we have the ability to do this as part of the base contract, or whether we have to do this separately, Deb.
Yeah, I mean, just for talking purposes this morning, when we were out there, the guy was kind of saying, well, 2 guys a week would be 10,000, and could they do it in a week? Maybe it's a week or 2 weeks. So we're kind of talking in the range of $10,000 to $20,000 tops. But I think they need to go back and really look at seriously how they would do that. So I think we should wait for that.
Yeah, Jack hit my point that I was going to make exactly. So I am in the position of minimizing additional work on the track contract because we've added 2 pretty large change orders. And especially when you said this is work that can be done after the project, you come and put a scissor lift up and do the work. I would pitch this as a separate bid item and not to be done as part of the project here.
But if you could email to us like a picture like that to Jeremy, I think that would be helpful, so that we can have some discussions with the powers that be and determine the best way to do this. Because I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks, but it would be a shame not to do it when we have the money. But and this is certainly a 114-year-old building, and they don't build stuff like that anymore.
Yeah, certainly I would want to do it within the fund, just not under the auspices of the current contractor's contract.
Any thoughts of the rest of the commission on this?
Yeah, Deborah, I have a question on that. Is that molding, is that carved stone?
That's carved stone. So whether it's, so this piece that the letters are in, that has the vertical surface, is one piece. And then this projecting, maybe it's easier if I go back to this view.
So it's sort of
everybody
like
can still see it. So
it's
this,
sort of like a stone crown molding.
this is one piece, then this projecting piece is one piece, and the egg and dart must belong to one or the other of those pieces. Either it's part of this vertical one that would be from here to here, and then there's a joint here. But yes, it's, and then those are all just load bearing stones that go back deep and are piled on top of each other structurally. So it's not a separate molding like a wood molding would be.
What is the condition of the remaining stone? Is that,
I mean, the stone in general and structurally, the stone is in very good condition. There's been some water damage to the stone throughout, and back in the late 1980s, there was some coating work and other work done on the stone that is a little problematic. And there are some other places on the building where there's sort of discolored coatings on stones. So that's one of the things that just aesthetically we're trying to fix. But in terms of the soundness of the stone, it's generally quite good. Other than some of these areas and some other just scope that was in the base scope, like open mortar joints and a few cracks.
Deborah, I have a question to follow up on this. So you had mentioned that this was not contemplated in the original scope. Was it just that this section wasn't of this particular trim, or in other places where this appears, was that covered and this section wasn't, or was none of this addressed in the original scope?
To be honest with you, today I didn't go back to the original report. I think a lot of the focus of the original scope and the original intent of the project was not, it was not a preservation project. It was not a, let's make the building look like the original. The scope of the project always was from a waterproofing and a structural standpoint of structural perspective of how to keep water out of the building and those kinds of repairs. So I think where that was the focus, I think some of the just stone damage maybe wasn't documented. I know when we started putting the bid documents together, and this was all in COVID, and when it was limited, we didn't have the ability to get up on a lift and that kind of thing. And a lot of the scope that we got into the documents was from the ground. And again, with the dirt in the way and the dirt holding it together, I think this particular item wasn't seen. And so that particular thing was not in the scope.
Answer your question, Kelly?
It does. Thank you so much.
So I just want to mention that this is not uncommon, and that we often think of stone as very homogeneous material, but within that kind of range, and certainly it is compared to something like wood or some other materials, but there is range within stone as to what's quarried. So, you know, one section of the same stone piece could be slightly softer or different makeup than the adjacency of the same or similar piece. So it's really kind of the age and what Mother Nature does to it, and then with a little help from water and some other things, that's kind of how we get to where we're at.
Okay. So any other thoughts or questions from commission members? So I think we will talk to the auditor and the city solicitor, and we'll get back to the commission as to, you know, how we can approach this. But thank you for the order of magnitude, Deb.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Deb?
I think I'm good. Just one last thought on this particular item. With the person we were talking to today, there aren't that many people who do that kind of work. And it's the preservation crafts person who does it. It's kind of like the cornice work. So it's a little bit difficult to just bid it
well,
to masons, also, but we can, you know, when we get to that point, we'll see where we are.
If it's under 30B, I guess, you know, if we're talking $20,000, I don't think we have to necessarily go through a full-blown bid process, right?
above 10,000, we at least need written quotes. I'm not sure of our advertising requirements.
Right, so we'll figure that out. Bob Barton, do you have anything you want to add?
No, sir. Looks beautiful over there. So thank you for your help.
All righty. Anything else that we need to do other than paying bills on the library project?
Not that I know of, Jack.
Okay, so I note that Evan, you're recommending the track requisition for 226, is that correct?
That is correct.
And it looks like we have 3 bills for BH&A, and all 3 of those you're recommending?
We do. We've reviewed them and recommend approval and payment.
And of course, you probably recommend your own bill that's on here.
I think that's correct.
If your answer was anything other, Bob Barton would be having a heart attack.
Pretty much, but I expected Evan's good answer there.
So, okay, then I guess unless anybody has anything else, we will move on from the library. Thank you. Our next meeting is October 6th, even though the agenda says 1/6.
I fixed it on my copy, but I didn't realize before I sent it out. Yes, 10/6.
10/6 and then 11/3, but hopefully maybe 10/6 will be the last time that we need to have a full-blown one in the library, but we'll see. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
And now I guess we'll go on to Grapes Zawatsky. You're muted.
Those are Napa grapes.
Those are what?
Grapes from Napa, California.
I see. Well, they look
Yummy.
good.
Yeah.
They look good. So let's go on to the fire department roof project. And I note that Arno is with us as well.
Yes. Good evening. How is everyone?
Good, thanks, Arno.
So, Mr. Chairman, so despite having issued 14 potential respondents, we received 3 bids. On your screen, you'll see the synopsis. Gibson Roofs was the lowest, most responsible bidder, followed by Rockwell Roofing.
Mark, at this point, we can see it says you're, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
We're good now.
Okay. And then Almar LLC, unfortunately, their bid was rejected or disqualified because they did not include the required update statement. And we understand from the Attorney General's office that that is a deal breaker. And I know that Jeremy reached out to the Attorney General's office to get validation and verification of that. Jeremy, do you have anything to report on that?
Yeah, Deborah Anderson, who's our go-to procurement person at the AG's office, I spoke with her today, and she said even if they can provide it at a later date, that's not sufficient. It needs to be in the bid package, and one without an update statement is considered non-responsive.
Okay, and that's
so
what we.
So Gibson is the apparent low bidder at this point, correct?
The lowest, most responsive bidder, yes, sir.
And
we've had conversations with them. And alternate number 1 was relating to whether or not the material, in the event that materials were not available due to shortages and supply chain disruptions from COVID, if the project was to be done next spring, they have submitted a $12,000 ad for anticipated escalation and additional material costs. As a result of that, we reached out and had a conversation with Arno today, and it appears probable that Gibson can do this job prior to the close of 2021. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Arno to get his thoughts and feelings about his conversations and the materials.
let me just stop you right there for a second. What was alternate number 2?
Alternate 2 was the change from 0.060 EPDM to 090, which had which was a thicker roof material that had a greater longevity. And I believe the commission members, when discussing this topic, probably felt less inclined to accept that. But that would be a conversation for, once we get past the contractor and the bid results.
Okay, because one of the reasons I was asking that is that if you add alternates, you have to accept them in the order that they're there, and it can change the order of the bidders. But I can see that Rockwell alternate 1 was 44, and the combination of Gibson's 1 and 2 was only 40. So it doesn't change anything with regard to the order of bidders.
Great. So Arno, do you want to talk about the probability of them being able to do this project this fall?
Sure. I did speak with Gibson Roofing today. And they did indicate that there was a very strong possibility that they would be able to get enough material to do the work starting this year. Since there isn't it's a relatively small amount compared to other projects. They were checking with some manufacturers to verify that. I did not hear back, but they felt fairly confident that they could get the material. So in light of that, they seem to express confidence, which is a good thing. I wouldn't see a problem with recommending awarding that project to them based on that information.
And there was one other factor, Mark. You came across some other extraneous information about another bidder?
Yeah, it's not relevant other than as general information. There was another bidder that intended to participate as a respondent. Unfortunately, my understanding is they delivered the big bid to the wrong municipality. And the information that I had, which is not verified or validated, was that their bid was would have been $505,000, which would have been a low bid compared to the Gibson at 535, or just slightly under the rejected Almar bid at 510. So what I did was I did a Dcam synopsis for the committee. I forwarded this to Jeremy earlier. So basically, of the respondents, Almar had a Dcam average score of 92, Gibson had a 92, and Rockwell had a 93. Their single project limits are listed here. All bidders would have been qualified under that, and their aggregate work limits certainly vary by size of company, and Gibson, amongst the three of them, is the largest entity by aggregate work limit. Capeway Capeway had a Dcam evaluation of 90 based on 36 evaluations. But the thing that I believe lowered their number from a normally 90 plus number was that they had one below average or unacceptable level. Anything below, I think, 80 is rejected, is a failing grade according to Dcam. So they had performed one project poorly, I guess, or to the dissatisfaction of the municipality. And as such, their average score was lowered down to 90. But again, we did not receive a bid from them, and they really can't be considered in the summary. The only way that that would come into play is if this commission were to reject all the bids, saying we're going to defer this project and we're going to rebid it. But as I indicated in an email, that would come with additional costs.
Well, let me jump in here, Mark, if I can. My understanding of the law is that because we only have 2 valid bids, we would be within our rights to rebid this. But if we were to do that, it would strike me that we would be deferring this project till the spring, and that has some important implications to it. I think also this commission's experience with rebidding projects is that nobody holds their number. Everybody knows what everyone else's number was, and the prices go up. Also, I'm not convinced that the price of the building materials will be coming down between now and the spring. And we would also be incurring further damage to the buildings over the course of a winter. So Arno, do you have any opinions to add to that on those issues?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Every time you rebid a project, sometimes you lose the bidders that bid it before. So you might lose Gibson and Almar and Rockwell. So then you're further limiting your bid list. You do tend to get higher pricing after that. And certainly, we're in unprecedented times with material shortages, and who knows what's going to happen in this, in the spring. So there is that possibility that the prices would go up even higher.
And what about the potential further damage going through another winter?
Well, certainly having more exposure to weather and potentially maybe even losing the roofs. I mean, if something were to let go.
So your recommendation, I'm gathering, is firmly that we accept the apparent low bidder.
Yes, that is my opinion.
And Mark?
I concur. I believe it would be in the best interest of the city of Attleboro to the extent possible, begin to undertake these projects as quickly as possible. And Gibson is our best choice, or our best. I don't know what the correct phraseology is, but our best hope of having the new roofs in place prior to the winter of 2021, 2022.
Okay. There's something I want to ask Jeremy about, but before we get to that, commission members, any thoughts on this issue? I guess you're all sitting here in stunned silence. So Jeremy, do we have enough money to accept this bid?
We will next week once a transfer is complete. So we had initially put less than $500,000 into the fund plus a contingency. CBI had a change order for the structural, on the construction side, the $500,000. CBI, after our agreement with them, had a change order for structural engineering and hazardous materials work. So municipal council voted that on Tuesday, I believe, or maybe last week. So that's been allocated, but we need to go back one more time. And since this came in so much higher than what our original construction documents, I think when we were at 80% CD, we were looking at like 490. So this would eat up our whole contingency. So the short answer is not right now. The long answer is we will have it in place for next week to be able to execute a contract.
So therefore, would it be appropriate that we recommend to the mayor accepting the bid of Gibson in the base bid amount of $535?
I think so. No contracts are going to get signed until the funding's in place. So that will be next week. But I believe it would be my recommendation, along with Mark's and Arno's, that you vote to, I'm not on the commission, recommend to the mayor tonight, and then we'll get the ball rolling administratively after that.
And there'd be no reason why we would think Gibson couldn't start preparing the contract or whatever they have to do to get ready, correct?
Right. Arno is actually responsible to generate the AIA contracts, and I'll work with him and forward it to you, Jack, for your review prior to going anywhere else. But yeah, and if we were to indicate that this commission had voted, they can then begin to source it, begin assembling submittals, and get moving. Obviously, we have about 16 weeks between now and the end of the year. And my understanding from my conversation with Arno and conversations with Gibson, they're looking at mobilization in November. So we do need to decide, or you as a commission need to decide tonight, so that we can have the best hope of having these roof projects completed before the snow flies.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from commission members? Then I guess the motion's in order, Jackie.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Jeremy?
Terry,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and Jack.
Yes, it's unanimous. Anything else we need to do on this particular project?
Have you paid the bills?
No, we have not paid the bills. We usually do that as the last thing, but there's one bill for you, Mark. And then there's one for CBI. Are you recommending the CBI bill to us?
I am. I reviewed it and sent my written recommendation for approval to Jeremy.
Okay, so we'll take all the bills at once. So next meeting is October 6th. Meeting after that looks like November 3rd. Unless there's some reason that you need a special meeting from us, but I'm sure you'll let Jeremy know that, right?
Certainly. Other than the commission vote this evening for the recommendation for the mayor to enter into a contract with Gibson Roofs, are there any other administrative requirements other than bond and insurance and those aspects in which the MDC would need to be involved in?
We do not need to take any further votes.
Okay, great. So thank you.
Okay, so thank you both. Then we have two other quick updates that one is the gym floors and the other is the Attleboro Pawtucket Water Interconnect. So I'll thank you, gentlemen, and ask Jeremy to give us the update on those two.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Arno.
night.
So on the Attleboro Pawtucket Water Interconnect, the final plans have been dropped off with the water department. The water department had a number of revisions to it, which then got refiled back with CDM Smith. I had reached out earlier today to see if it had been filed with Mass DEP as they had indicated on their previous schedule, and I have yet to hear back. The engineer who is project manager on this for CDM Smith is now on vacation for a month. Like I had said to Courtney earlier, our experiences with this project so far, perhaps that's a good thing for us. So we'll see if the backup prescribed to us can get us an update any quicker. Gym floors, I haven't spent a lot of time on that recently between everything else going on, and we couldn't really get it done until the spring anyway. It's kind of been back burner for me, but I will have a much better update for you next month on that.
Okay. I guess we should pay the bills. Jeremy, you're recommending the CDM Smith bill after that comment?
Courtney approved it, and the month prior was about 3,000. This month was 14,000, and it was reviews and back and forth and meetings. And there have been stuff going forward this month, just not at the pace we would have hoped for the last 9. But yes, Courtney Wunschel has approved it, and it's in order as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 8 bills to pay. Anybody have any further questions on those? Jackie?
Move to approve.
Second.
Terry,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and Jack.
Yes, they all pass unanimously. Okay, anybody have anything else they need to bring up?
Nope.
Then I guess we can have a motion to adjourn at 6:29.
So moved.
Second.
Jeremy?
Terry,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and Jack.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.